My name's Katie King and I'm a registered nutritionist. I practice here in Brisbane. My areas of interest are diabetes management, so type 1 and type 2, and also nutrition for endurance athletes. And I have a real food only approach to all of the services that I offer. So I was actually a student at this event last year, so it's a big honour and very scary to be speaking today. But we've been living this sort of lifestyle for quite a few years now, and I thought I'd just go through a couple of things that we've done this year. So these are just a couple of photos of myself and my partner. So my partner's been into endurance running for about 5 or 6 years, I think. And in the last year, I've sort of started getting more and more into running as well. So this year I ran my first marathon in April at Canberra, and then 2 weeks ago I ran my third marathon in Melbourne. And I did those races, Canberra Marathon, I did it with no nutrition, so I didn't need anything during the event. Melbourne Marathon, I had, I think, 2 bites of a banana. And we try to use real food when Carl's racing. This race was in Canberra. It was 300 kilometres of running. It's 4 laps of Canberra. So the picture on the left was us counting down because we'd finally got to double figures and we were like 99 Ks to go, and that was super exciting. So it really is possible. You won't, as an athlete, you're not going to suffer if you cut out refined sugar and you cut down on your refined carbohydrates. Sports nutrition can be very simple. I'm not going to be talking about that though today. So my presentation's going to be really simple, and I really want to aim this at the people in the room who are here and they're brand new and you've just come in, probably following a standard Australian diet, and you've got all this information and you're thinking, wow, okay, this is great, but what am I going to do with it? So we're obviously going to continue to discuss the intricacies of LCHF and paleo for specific conditions, but I wanted to take this opportunity just to bring it back to basics and remind you that what we're talking about is just real food, okay? So that's your starting point if you're walking away from this seminar today. 5 things that I often go through with clients when they first begin. These are my 5 key tips when you're choosing food and you're transitioning. So obviously we want to keep it as unprocessed as possible, and that means mainly perishable items. So at the end of the week, your fridge should virtually be empty. No diet foods. We'll have a little bit of a closer look at that in a moment. Shopping in the outside aisles is another really easy one because obviously that's where you find your fresh and your perishable items. Number 4, Leah always talks about this so well, eating consciously and eating intuitively. It's just about actually sitting down, chewing your food, okay? That's a very important process, acknowledging that we have plenty of food and many people don't. And eating intuitively is just about actually eating when you're hungry, okay, and not just eating for the sake of it. And number 5, reading ingredients. So I have lots of clients who come in and tell me, I always look at the labels, I know how many calories are in this and how much fat is in that, but they have no idea what they're actually consuming. So to give you an example of why this is really important, this is actually the same product. So they're both yogurts, okay? But as you can see, they're very, very different. So the one on the left is the low-fat version. I'm not here to name and shame brands. And it's got a 4.5-star health rating, so I wouldn't recommend you trust those. Lots of, you can see there in the ingredients, we've got added sugar, added chemicals, added additives, and then the one on the right, I can recognise those ingredients and I'm comfortable putting that into my body. Lots of fats which are naturally occurring in that particular product, and same with the sugars. There's no added sugar, that carbohydrate is naturally occurring in the food. So just bringing it back to basics. So food choices are one aspect of the practical side of things. Another really important step that I talk to my clients about is setting some goals. So this is actually a real example. This is somebody who came to me and they weren't performing well athletically and they had no energy. And we went through this process of goal setting. So I really encourage you to do this in detail, no matter what your goal is, okay? If you're here because you want to lose weight or you want to run a marathon fat adapted, whatever it is, you need to come up with as many different criteria as you can, because you will be amazed at how much better and how many aspects of your life good nutrition will actually impact. So in terms of physical appearances, often we see things like clearer skin are obvious when you reduce refined sugar. Hair, people always tell me that their hair's changed because all of a sudden they're eating good quality fats. I always talk to people about their relationship with food. I'll go into that in a moment. And obviously some of the other goals that you may want to list are blood pressure. That's a condition that we often see medicated straight away. I had a client in clinic about 6 weeks ago, presented with a blood pressure of 157 on 111, and within 4 weeks, through purely just nutrition, that was down to 118 on 78. And, you know, obviously that would have been medicated straight away if he hadn't have changed his diet. Obviously other things we've already talked about today. So changes in cholesterol, HbA1c, also hormonal changes. See a lot of improvements in terms of hormones, especially obviously in women, when they get their nutrition right and they adopt an LCHF way of eating. So another tool that I really suggest that you use if you're going to go away from today and you want to get the best out of this on your own, and it sounds, again, very simple, but I always get my clients to keep a diary. It's not just about food. Again, it comes back to all these other things. So how they're sleeping, you know, how's their energy through the day? How are their moods? Anything that is relevant there, I encourage them to do. So generally when people make nutrition changes and they adopt an LCHF way of eating, the transition takes maybe up to 4 weeks until they start to feel really good, okay, because of the metabolic changes that happen. And if after 4 weeks, you know, some of these things aren't working, you can adjust them straight away if you're conscious of them, okay? I'm trying to help you guys, or I guess stop you from making, or help you get your nutrition tweaked right straight away. So some of those things might be, particularly with athletes, they might need to raise their protein a little bit, or it might be a matter of simply adding a little bit of carbohydrate around their training. So all these little things can make a big difference, and if you keep a diary, you'll be conscious of that. If you're a diabetic, I'd suggest you also keep a track of your blood sugars, obviously. If I'm working with a diabetic, I'll ask for 8 to 10 blood sugar readings per day, even with a type 2 when I first start working with them, to see how they're responding to different foods. The other good tool about this is you can start to pick up those things like gluten intolerance issues as well, because we're not only looking at macros here, we're also looking at the types of food that you're eating. And at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that no two people are the same. So as I said before, and as you can see here, I've said if weight loss is a goal, I usually talk to my clients about just weighing once a week. And you saw on the slide previous that I talked to people about their relationship with food as well. So we have talked a lot today about LCHF, this lifestyle and weight management and obesity. But I also see on the other end of the scale that chronic dieting is a really big problem. And a lot of my clients, both men and women, present this is literally the way they've lived their life up until the time that they come in and see me. So I'm sure that some people can relate to that. And it's a fact that actually every single day, Australians will spend over $1 million on dieting products that won't work. It's a lot of wasted money. So obviously, bringing this back to a low fat, the typical low fat way of eating. People go on a diet, they feel deprived because fat offers absolutely no satiety and no nutritional value, okay, low fat foods, which obviously leads to binging. And then we get feelings of guilt, and that ties in with mental health as well. There's a big link between nutrition and mental health, which Caroline Rogers spoke about earlier today. And it's not only the physiological issues, so on a metabolic level, chronic dieting continues to affect you right down to your mitochondrial in your cells, which is also related to disease. It also has psychological consequences, and it's not only affecting the dieter, but it also affects the people around him and her. And particularly, Leah talked about this earlier today, it does really affect children and kids' relationships with food and their relationship with their bodies as well. And I talk to psychologists about this quite a lot, and it's definitely a problem that they're aware of. So if we want to break the cycle of chronic dieting, it's exactly the same. It works. We can break the cycle of chronic dieting, we can break the cycle of obesity in the same way, and that's why LCHF does work, that's why Real Food works. It's very simple. Obviously, we're giving you permission to eat good fats, so all of a sudden you feel satisfied, okay? You're not hungry all the time, you're not feeling deprived. You're eating nutrient-dense foods, which Marty alluded to in great detail in his speech. And that's important for your health and also for weight management. There's been lots of studies done that suggest overeating actually does have something to do with the fact that you're not feeding your body the nutrients it needs, so it keeps asking you to give it more food, essentially. Escaping the joys of calorie counting, that's my biggest pet hate, calorie counting. I think it destroys people, and we certainly don't promote calorie counting on an LCHF lifestyle. Now, obviously, there are intricacies there if you're a diabetic or you've got a particular condition, you're trying nutritional ketosis, there's going to be some aspect of, counting involved. But for the most part, and your starting point is real food, okay, and going from there. Obviously, due to all of those things, we do develop a healthier relationship with food and our own bodies, and it's simple, okay? You don't have to make it complicated. JERF is really easy, okay? So for those of you who are new, JERF just means just eat real food, and that's really the message today. So I don't think you'll need any more motivation, but what I think is fantastic about the conference today is that we've obviously acknowledged just how much nutrition affects not only our weight, but also our health and our lifestyle and our happiness overall. So you really need to eat like your life depends on it, because it truly does. So that's it from me.